Hi everyone, thank you for joining. I'm Lionel Adam. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Business Development at Gamestream. I'm proud to be partner with the London Game Festival, and I'm basically going to talk to you today about cloud gaming and why publisher and developer should care about cloud gaming. So before we start, maybe we can explain a little bit more on the rise of gaming as an ecosystem. And it's interesting to have this diagram in front of you that is showing basically the last 50 years, the gaming ecosystem evolution back to the 70s and how it has evolved through the years as a kind of platform-oriented ecosystem. If you look deep down into the diagram, you can see that arcade and console have been starting early 70s to bring gaming to the audience. And in fact, all the business for many years, for decades, have been structured about how the content is bring on specific devices like arcade, consoles, PC, mobile, and L devices. And this has been the way for many years the ecosystem has been structured. And in fact, for many years, the content has been I would say the way to sell the hardware. It's not that it was not important; it was really important. But the point was that it was really kind of a channel. So you wanted to be like on console, you were on this type of specific console, or you wanted to be on PC. It was a specific release. So there were many different type of hardware that were driving the ecosystem forward. And this has been true up to like 2020, more or less, where there is a real rise of the cloud gaming ecosystem. But this is really to explain the way that the content and the ecosystem has been structured is really moving from a platform-oriented to a content-oriented ecosystem. And that's what cloud gaming is bringing, in fact, in this challenge. So the next slide is showing the early adoption challenges that have been in the market for like, let's say, 10 years, 15 years, because in fact, cloud gaming is not completely new to the ecosystem. There has been early adoption and early startups or companies doing cloud gaming, but there were technical roadblocks, in fact, like mainly the network was not there. So that was one of the main issues for the early startup to deploy their cloud gaming ecosystem. There was also a very high cost in the infrastructure. And in fact, we can explain that later on, but this has been one of the major issue when trying to build a viable commercial service like early 2010. It was very difficult to make a viable business case out of cloud gaming because of the price of the infrastructure. And last, the technology bricks needed to perform a good user experience, which nails down to lower latency, better bandwidth, was really difficult to move into the specific ecosystem that you could find back in time. So now there has been also some challenges on the business models, like roadblocks, especially on the content side, because in fact the cost of the licensing and the availability for streaming was really difficult to get in the beginning. Because when you are trying to move an industry from an existing business model to a new business model, it's always very difficult to move, and that's one of the major issues is that, in fact, the gaming industry has been structured for many years on the basis of like the video industry has been doing, like licensing on geography basis and trying to replicate the same model with distribution channels. So this is something that is difficult to change when you are in that ecosystem, because you have an established business model and you are trying to shake that business model. So that was also a real, I would say, a real challenge and roadblocks in the deployment of the early cloud gaming ecosystem. Then it's more related to the audience, the fact that subscription and streaming was not really well established. if you look back in the early 2000 and between 2000 2010, there were in fact few streaming platforms. This was the early stage of the music platforms like Spotify, like Netflix also later on. So that was really a real major change in the way people are consuming the content. And this was a roadblock in the sense that you are not changing consumer habits that easily, that quickly. It needs some time. And today we can see that music and video has evolved. And this is now time for the gaming ecosystem to move into that ecosystem. Last, subscription, because if you want to build a viable ecosystem, a viable business case, you need to be able to subscribe to a service or to embark people to a service where they can get value for money. And that was one of the difficulty linked to the same fact that the subscription model was really at early stage. So in fact, if you look at the traditional Gartner innovation curve, I would say we are right now more or less in the slope of enlightenment. So that's just where it starts to become a viable business case, because early adoption, and there was experience like people like OnLive or Playcast or Gamefly, they were probably too early in the business. We saw also people coming now, the big giant companies like Google, for example, Amazon with their Luna service, they embark now because it's now the time where everything has changed and we can start to have a real evolution in terms of cloud gaming, because the market is there and because everything has changed. So, which leads to the next slide, where we show the different stage of value for the different segment of the ecosystem. So if you look at the bottom part of the market, in fact, cloud gaming is bringing a real game changer, because this is providing an access to a booming market of more than 3 billion subscribers. And the point is really to lower the entry barrier to the gaming as a whole. Before, you needed to have a console, you needed to have a very expensive PC. With cloud gaming, all this is removed. So you don't need all that, meaning that you can access, even if you don't have enough money to put into this hardware, you can access a gaming experience that is premium, that is PC and console-like experience, because you remove this entry barrier that is the hardware. So lower investment, instant gaming experience make also a very different experience. If you look, for many years, the gaming experience has been buy on CD, on console, install, long installation process, a long update process. So it was really difficult, in fact, to get to the point where you could play. And I remember myself like playing nights, well, trying to play for many nights. And in fact, it was more like installing servers, installing application, installing games, setting up servers for multiplayer LAN parties and stuff like that. So that was one of the major issues. If you look back to the second layer, the publisher, we are bringing with cloud gaming a global reach in the ecosystem, because cloud gaming is I would say kind of linked to the traditional middleman that internet is removing. Cloud gaming is removing that kind of ecosystem. You can bypass the Steam and other distribution platform, because you can easily access any device on any network with one single content, and which makes that you can, as a publisher, directly access to your audience. So we are trying to recreate the link between the publisher and the end user, bypassing some of the in-between actors and more or less putting back the content in the middle of the ecosystem. Then, in terms of content, what we'll see in the future, and I'm definitely convinced about that, is cloud gaming, because it's a new way of consuming the content, new way of building the content and developing the content, will bring also new kind of content. And episodic content is probably one of the most interesting one. Just like Netflix series has transformed the media ecosystem in the video space, the cloud gaming will bring also new kind of content that is what we call cloud native. So it's natively designed for the cloud, just as an example today, you can have massively multiplayer online world that cannot be downloaded. So if you can stream that, it's much easier to access the audience. Another example is everybody's talking about the metaverse, but the metaverse is a kind of virtual world that will aggregate many different experiences, and these metaverses will be streamed to the end user, because by streaming this content you can access any device, being smartphones, tablets, PC, set-top box, even consoles, and whatever. I mean, it could be a fridge in the future. You can stream the same content. Then going up in the pyramid, in terms of business, we are definitely bringing new business models, subscription model, new revenue streams, and there is probably a lot more to think about in the future, just like the ecosystem is always starting with the transformation, but then you have innovation coming on top, and especially in terms of business model, we'll see like probably streamed games advertising in the future, metaverses streaming, and this will bring new ecosystem and new business model to add on top of the value chain. And then as an end user, of course, you don't need hardware, you don't need installation, you can play on any device, anywhere, on any network, and that's definitely transforming the way you will access the content. And I like to say that basically cloud gaming is really click and play experience. So that's removing all the barriers, that's removing all the intermediate steps. And that's really what makes it an interesting asset when you are a publisher, when you are a developer, when you are trying to enter that gaming ecosystem business. So yeah, more or less, we've removed the network barrier. The streaming capacity increased thanks to the Moore's law, and in fact, that's one big aspect. The GPU are becoming much more affordable. The fact is that also different part of the industry, like AI, like advanced computing effort that require the same GPU, is lowering the price of the GPUs, and makes that today we can, with let's say 10 times less investment that you had to do 5 years ago, stream to 10 times more people with the same hardware solution. So that's really interesting, because it becomes a viable solution, a commercial solution. And then we see more and more people in the streaming industry. They are, I would say, they are more inclined to give their content, to provide their content on streaming platforms. They see much more the value and less the risks, and this means that you can now get to a mature point where you can build a subscription service with the content, the technology, the audience is now coming, and all the big players in the GAFAs, they are starting their B2C service, because they see the value. They can aggregate more audience, more user, attract 8 balls, catch 8 balls, and this is all what makes the value of the cloud gaming. Now, what do we do as Gamestream in this ecosystem? So we are changing the way we play by providing technology, by providing probably one of the best technology. You can play 720p, 1080p, 4K. We can provide also a complete turnkey solution, and that's what we do with most of our partners. We are partner with 3 major segments: the telecommunication service providers, the first one, but also the game publishers and studios, and the hospitality business. And we see a huge appeal, a huge traction in all 3 segments for cloud gaming. Why? Because it's probably complementary solution to video, music, for all of them. So as a footprint, today we are present in 7 countries. We are present in Indonesia, we are present in the Emirates, we are present in France, Switzerland, Slovenia, Taiwan. We are right now launching in India with the #1 telecommunication service provider. So this is for the telecommunication segments. And we see a lot of traction from many different players. Then, from a publisher standpoint, we are partners since 2021 with 3 major and leading publishers and developers, which are Ubisoft, Focus Home, and we have also been doing a partnership in the in the scope of the London Game Festival to deliver live playable demos directly from your browser. And I'll come back to that at the end of the presentation to explain a little bit more what we did. And last but not least, we have a worldwide partnership with Accor. Accor is owning Novotel brands and many other brands of hotels. And this is our first of kind of partnership in that ecosystem where we are providing game streaming solution in all the lobbies of the Novotels. Why? Because it makes sense for them to provide this as a free free-to-play access solution for the kids. And we see a lot of traction as well in the hospitality business from hotels, but not only. There are a lot of interest from the global ecosystem, like cruise ships, like airlines as well, who are interested into providing premium content coming from the PC and the console world in a stream solution, because then you don't need to invest into very high-end devices. So in this effort, we have been partnering with many publishers, very well known, and I think you can recognize here most of them that we classified between kids, casual, and core, and also small and independent brands and major brands. So we can, with all this partnership and all the content we have, build for each service that we are deploying the best portfolio, the best catalog that will fit. Just as an example, we don't have the exact same catalog in Indonesia as we do have in Switzerland or in France, because this is not the same audience, this is not the same target, this is not the same persona that we are trying to reach. So we have to build ad hoc portfolio, ad hoc catalog in each case. And this is interesting because we have this partnership where we are more or less a distribution channel for those publishers, but it's also interesting because when we start to discuss about cloud gaming with those partners, it came to our attention that there was also a real interest for their own ecosystem. And that's why it's interesting for studios and publishers to care about cloud gaming, because they can also get the value from that, not only in terms of distribution, but also in terms of direct value of this technology into their own ecosystem. And that's what we would like to explain in the coming slide. So what are the new opportunities for publishers and developers? Definitely, this is a driver for revenues, sales growth and revenues, because we see more and more people coming to cloud gaming platforms. And for the first year in France, we saw that dematerialized content was more lucrative than the physical one. So that's the first time we see that, and probably not the last time, because this trend is just starting and the transformation is happening right now, but it's not gonna stop. I mean, the transformation is there, and cloud gaming will probably remain at the end the only way people are consuming the content. Today, it's true, we are trying to address mainstream market. We know there are hardcore players, people who are very happy to buy their content, to buy a very expensive PC. They always like to play and to test cloud gaming solution, but sometimes they come back and say, that's nice, that's not just like on my PC. But if you remember, like 20 years ago, a lot of people were saying the exact same thing for the MP3. It's nice, but it's not the exact same quality as on my CD. But who cares about CD today? I mean, and that's gonna be probably the same in 10 years from now for the cloud gaming. That's true. You don't get today the exact same experience as if you are on your PC when you are a hardcore gamer, but it's only a marginal part of the audience. But in 5 to 10 years from now, you won't see the difference, and everybody's gonna play cloud gaming. Why? Because it's the concept of the ease of access to the content for the masses. So you don't need PC, you don't need content, but you access very easily to your content. That's what people wanted for music and video. That's what people want for gaming. And that's why it's going to transform the way you are distributing the content as a publisher, and the way you can access directly to your audience as a studio as well. Going back to the presentation, you can see that it's also a democratization in emergent market. And that's more or less what we said in the beginning. You can access much more people if you can access people who don't have enough money to buy hardware. And cloud gaming is bringing you that. Just as an example, we are partner in India with the leading and #1 telco here. And India is an untapped market for the video industry. And this is really interesting because with cloud gaming, it will become from day one, just in the finger snap, a market where everybody can play because everybody has a smartphone. They have low-end smartphone, but anyway, you can stream a video. That's in a sense what we are doing when we are streaming a game, which means that you can stream a video, you can play a video, so you can play a game in the cloud, but you can play it. You can access the content. So it's billion of people who can access the content, and that's really how to bring those access to all your content. So it's how to expand the reach for your content. And then we are expanding also the revenues because we will create new business model. All you can eat is one of them, but I'm completely sure that there will be also other model like infrastructure rental plus game streaming on a per need basis, low short-term or long-term rental, for example, that will bring new revenues on top of the sales that people are doing today. Because there are some people who will remain interested in acquiring the content, and for that there are also cloud gaming solution for them. Just as an example, Shadow in France, or GeForce Now is also an example of platform where you need to bring your own content. So you have to pay for the content and then you can stream it. So there is a room for those models. There is a room for subscription. There is a room for rental, even a room for new model. And that's what makes new revenues and create more value in the end for the ecosystem. Then if you look more in the way the publishers and developers can use the technology, this can be a way to lower drastically the development cost. Why? First of all, because you don't need to develop a specific release for each platform, going back to the fact that you don't have any difference in the platform. You are just streaming content and you can stream that content to any device the same way. So that's one point. So reducing the number of releases that you need. You can also think about new usage, more professional usage. Like we are having discussion with people interested in QA process in the cloud, because then you don't need to provide a specific PC to each tester. You can use a cloud infrastructure. You can mutualize that infrastructure. You can also rely on third-party partner or hyperscaler providers like Microsoft Azure, AWS, or even GCP to stream this content, meaning that you can move from a CapEx to OpEx model, which is always a very interesting approach when you are a developer or publisher, because then it's much more flexible in the way you will be able to access the resource. It's also a way to test in a more flexible way the new release and avoid, I would say, porting issues or new development issues, like just as an example, Cyberpunk was having in the very beginning. So by enabling quicker, faster turnaround time in the testing process, you can make the development process much more efficient, and you can move directly to the right target. And the right target is a nice release that everybody agrees to say that, yeah, that's a great game. That's the game that is completely polished and finished. And last, we are also providing specific technology, and I'll come back to that to explain in more details in the use cases. But the cloud gaming is also bringing new technologies that can be used in other areas to develop new use cases. Just like, for example, sharing a game with a friend, or giving access to a third party to a specific platform in a more flexible way. Then, from a business standpoint, as I said, it's putting back the customer at the center of the experience, surrounded by content. And we are talking about game today, but obviously in a global view and trying to merge the IPs, you can think about content like music, video, game, on one single IP that will be provided as a one single platform approach in a completely agnostic way, whatever the OS, whatever the hardware. And that's definitely making a change. There is a challenge in terms of market cannibalization, but we believe that it's not going to last for long because the fact is that you are adding new revenues on top of existing one, and people who are today more inclined to buy content will be the one that will be the last one to transfer to a cloud gaming approach. So today we are expanding the reach, and in the future we will transfer the existing sales to the cloud gaming sales. So that's why it's interesting. And now we are also bringing, as we said, the new kind of model: freemium, subscription, on-demand ads. All this can be fitted for cloud gaming. Last but not least, you can think as an end user to bring your own brand as a cloud gaming solution, because it's not a massive investment, because it's a democratization for the end user, but also in terms of technology, in terms of usage for you as a publisher or as a studio. We have few use cases. In fact, we started the company, the development of the commercial of the company in 2019, but we have addressed publishers since 2021 only. And we've already three main business cases that we can show. The first one is Ubisoft, with whom we've been working on a specific masking technology. So it's very technical, but we are providing a piece of software to this company that enables a better implementation of the share play experience. In fact, when you are trying to invite a friend to play on your platform. So that's a very good example of how cloud gaming can help improve the traditional gaming ecosystem and help also to create new use cases. That's interesting from that perspective. The second one is the first demo that we did with Microsoft Azure in December last year with Focus Home Interactive, where we provided for free a Plague Tale Innocence access for 60 minutes. In fact, people were able to directly play inside their browser the Plague Tale first level. So that was interesting because it was a way to drive audience to the Focus store, which was one of the main aspect of that demo. It was also a marketing approach, because we did that demo while Focus was announcing the next version of Plague Tale during the Game Awards. So it was an interesting event for us, because we were able to leverage this announcement, drag new audience on the gaming solution, on the cloud gaming solution, and then at the end of the demonstration, drive the audience to the Focus store. So there was a kind of long-term customer journey for Focus to bring players directly from the cloud to the store. And last but not least, this year, we have partnered with the London Game Festival and Microsoft to deliver a live cloud demonstration. So we are providing 5 games access directly in the browser that can be accessed directly from the portal of the London Games Festival. You just need to click on one tile. It can be one of those 5 titles, and you will get directly connected to a streaming session in the cloud, where you can play the content directly. So no installation, nothing, even no download of any kind of application. That's really the beauty of it. And this is something that we are providing for free to the end user for during all the course of the festival. And we hope that it's gonna also be a proof point for us to how it can be easy and flexible to deploy new release very, very quickly and give access to the audience. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope I brought some interesting insight on why publisher, why developers, why studios should care about cloud gaming. If you are interested to dig more into details, you can reach me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or other kind of social network. I'd be happy to discuss and to answer additional questions. Thank you.